The broadcast hijacked every channel in the galaxy at once. 3,000 worlds saw the same image flicker into existence above their cities, in their homes, on their personal screens. A vast amphitheater carved from black stone, lit by 1,000 torches, lined with the assembled dignitaries of the Vothrak Dominion. At the center, on a raised dais, stood High Sovereign Krelvar, his six-fingered hand resting on the hilt of a ceremonial blade older than most of his subject species' written languages. He let the silence stretch. Across the galaxy, civilizations leaned closer to their screens. To the species known as humanity, Krelvar began, his voice translated into 900 tongues by the Dominion's relay network. This is your final notice. His mandibles clicked in deliberate cadence. You have refused our trade terms. You have rejected our cultural integration protocols. You have insulted our envoys. You have refused tribute. You have refused to bow. The torches behind him guttered as if in answer. Therefore, by the authority of the 80 lords and the throne of Vothrak, I hereby declare a state of full war between the Dominion and the human species. Your colonies will burn. Your ships will be salvaged. Your homeworld will be cleansed and resettled. Your name will be removed from the records of the stars. Behind him, the assembled lords rose to their feet and pounded their fists against the stone. The sound rolled out through the broadcast like surf against a cliff. Across the galaxy, the watching species held their breath. The Vothrak had not declared full war in 9 generations. The last species to receive such a declaration, the Aelan Confederacy, had ceased to exist within a calendar cycle. Their ruins were now a Vothrak vacation world. Every diplomat, every analyst, every common citizen of every civilized world turned their attention toward Earth, waiting for the response. Surrender, the wagering pools predicted. Surrender within the hour. Earth said nothing for 6 hours. Then a single message went out, transmitted on the same network the Vothrak had used, broadcast in plain text and translated by Earth's own systems into the same 900 tongues. It read in its entirety. Acknowledged, we are busy. Office of the President, Sol Republic. Then it went dark. In the great amphitheater on the Vothrak homeworld, the assembled lords stared at the words hanging above their dais. Krelvar read the translation twice, then a third time. His mandibles parted, then closed. He turned to his court translator, an older Vothrak whose eyes were milky with cataracts. Verify the message, he said. Verified, my lord, sent from the highest office of the human state. That is all they sent. That is all, my lord. Krelvar looked back at the floating script. The torches crackled. Outside the amphitheater on the great plaza, the war chants of his soldiers had already begun. Inside, only the wind through the high stone arches answered him. Ambassador Sithen, head of the diplomatic wing, stepped forward and bowed. My lord, perhaps a translation error. Perhaps their leadership has not yet received the declaration. Perhaps the message is the work of a single official acting in panic. Perhaps, Krelvar said. But it had not been written in panic. It had been written in the dry, clipped tone of an office responding to a noise complaint. In the days that followed, Vothrak agents embedded across the galaxy scoured every human broadcast they could find. They expected emergency sessions, calls for evacuation, civilian fleets fleeing the colonies, hoarding, riots, the desperate, scrambling, terrified noise of a species being told it would die. They found none of it. They found weather forecasts, a football match, a scientific symposium on agricultural yields in the outer colonies, a children's show about a robot dog, a presidential address not about war but about a tax reform package. In the deep archives of the Vothrak Intelligence Service, an analyst stayed late that night, watching the same human news broadcast over and over, searching for the hidden alarm. The anchors smiled. The weather was mild. Stocks were up. The analyst, an old veteran of 3 campaigns, set down her cup of tea with hands that would not stop shaking. She did not know why she was afraid. But she was. Ambassador Sithin's shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere on a clear morning. Below her, the city of New Geneva sprawled across the foothills of the Alps in long, clean ribbons of glass and green roofing. Birds wheeled over the lakes. Pleasure craft cut white wakes across the water. She had read every report. She had memorized every map. She had practiced the 8 standard postures of intimidation in front of her mirror for 3 days. Vothrak ambassadors had broken empires by walking into rooms. But this was no broken empire. As she descended, she saw, again and again, the same impossible thing, a population behaving as though it were not at war. Cars moved in orderly streams along the highways. Children walked to schools in small chattering knots. Cafes on the lake shore were full. Not a single defensive battery had been deployed. Not a single sky shelter had been activated. The orbital traffic she had passed on her way down had been almost entirely civilian, with cargo ships waiting in patient queues for landing slots. The shuttle touched down on a public diplomatic pad. There was no honor guard. There was no ceremonial procession. There was a single human in a charcoal suit, holding a paper coffee cup and a tablet, who waved her over with the cup hand. "Ambassador Sithin," the man said. "Welcome, I'm Director Haver, State Department. The President can see you in about 40 minutes. There's a small delay, sorry about that, the budget vote ran long. Can I get you something to drink? The cafeteria's actually pretty good." She stared at him. "My government has declared war on yours," she said. "Right," Haver checked his tablet. "We logged that, coffee, tea, anything." "Has your government," she said carefully, "not discussed the matter?" "Sure, cabinet meeting yesterday. Took about 12 minutes. The Secretary of Defense gave a briefing, the President asked a few questions, they moved on to the agricultural bill." He smiled politely. "We're a bit stretched thin, hence the wait, sorry again." He led her through the building. Vothrak ambassadors expected to be searched, scanned, intimidated, watched. She passed 3 checkpoints. The humans manning them looked up, smiled, waved her through. No weapons drawn, no body language of fear. In the cafeteria, she sat across from a low-ranking human aide who chatted, without prompting, about a sports league. Sithin tried to steer the conversation toward the war, and the aide kept gently steering it back to the league. She began to feel as though she were being humored, not in the cruel sense, but as one would humor a guest who kept bringing up an awkward subject at dinner. Eventually, she was brought into a small office. Not a throne room, not a state hall. A wood-paneled office with a fireplace and a window overlooking a courtyard where a black and white cat sat washing itself. President Adeline Hart rose from behind a modest desk. She was perhaps 60 Earth years old, lean, with silver hair pulled back in a knot. Her handshake was firm and brief. She gestured Sithin to a chair. "Ambassador, thank you for coming. I'll be direct. We're not going to fight a war with the Vothrak Dominion." Sithin straightened. "Then you are surrendering." "We're not surrendering either. Those are the available options, Madam President." "They are if you want them to be." Hart laced her fingers on the desk. "I want to be clear with you because we respect your government enough not to play games. We are not afraid of you. We do not have time for you. We have a problem larger than your empire, and your declaration of war is, frankly, an inconvenience we cannot prioritize." Sithin's mandibles parted. "You cannot prioritize." "Correct." "What problem," Sithin said, her voice cooling, "could possibly be larger than the Vothrak Dominion?" Hart looked at her for a long moment. The fire crackled. Outside, the cat had moved to the windowsill and was watching them with green eyes. "I'm not going to tell you," Hart said. "Not yet, perhaps never. What I will tell you, Ambassador, is this. Stay out of our way. Do not engage our fleets. Do not strike at our colonies that still have populations on them. If you do, you will get an answer you will not enjoy. If you do not, you may yet live. You are threatening the Dominion. I am giving you a warning. The two are different. Sithin rose, every joint in her body trembling not with fear but with affront. Then she paused at the door. "Madam President, what if we attack anyway?" Hart had already returned to her papers. She did not look up. "Then I'll have to make time." The Vothrak war fleet emerged from jump in the outer reaches of the Halcyon 9 system in a perfect blossom of blue light. 600 capital ships, 3,000 escorts, support tenders, planetary assault carriers, the largest single mobilization the Dominion had launched in 2 generations. Warlord Teshin stood on the bridge of the dreadnought Iron Throne and watched the fleet flower out across the screen. Halcyon 9 was the largest of the human outer colonies, 18 million inhabitants, 3 orbital docks, defensive batteries rated to repel any third-rank intrusion. It was rich in heavy metals, well-positioned along the trade lanes and exposed. The strategic logic was simple: take Halcyon 9, demonstrate human weakness, watch the rest of their colonies fold. "All wings report ready, Warlord." "Send the order." The fleet moved on the planet. Teshin's tactical officers expected a sequence: long-range sensor pings, defensive batteries opening up, panicked civilian broadcasts, a desperate fleet sortie. They had simulated it 40 times. What they got was nothing. The orbital batteries did not fire. The civilian broadcasts did not panic. There were no civilian broadcasts at all. The orbital docks hung quiet, lights dimmed. "Sensor sweep," Teshin said. "Conducting, Warlord." The planet's biosphere reads as expected. Atmospheric composition normal. We're detecting trace heat signatures in the major cities, but... The sensor officer trailed off. But not enough heat for 18 million people. Not enough for 1 million. Not enough for 10,000. Teshin's mandibles clicked. "Survey ships forward. Scout flights to the surface. I want eyes on the cities within the hour." The scouts went down. The reports came back. The cities were intact. Buildings whole. Power on, set to idle. Vehicles in driveways charged and waiting. Schools, hospitals, restaurants empty. Furniture in place. Personal belongings gone. The planet had been evacuated. 18 million people, quietly, with time enough to take their things. "When?" Teshin demanded. "When did they leave?" The intelligence officer scrolled through orbital records. "Local signs suggest the evacuation occurred between 3 and 4 weeks ago, Warlord. There has been no civilian activity in any major center for at least 20 days. They knew we were coming." It would appear, Warlord, that they did. In the central square of the colonial capital, the scout team found a single object placed deliberately on a stone bench, a small black cube. It activated when they approached. A holographic figure rose from it, a human woman in a colonial governor's uniform. "Hello, Vothrak," the recording said. Her voice was tired but unbowed. "If you're hearing this, you've taken Halcyon 9. Congratulations. The harvest is in, the children are in their new schools, the dogs are settling in fine. We left the lights on for you because we didn't want to come back to spoiled food in the freezers. You came a long way for an empty planet. I'm sorry about that. I want you to understand something. Earth told us not to bother fighting you. We didn't pull out because we were afraid of you. We pulled out because we have a bigger war to fight and our soldiers are needed elsewhere. So please don't strut on our streets and tell yourselves you've conquered us. You haven't conquered anything. You've inherited a problem you don't understand yet." The hologram paused. "Don't dig into the foundations of the spaceport. Don't drill in the eastern continent. Don't open any of the sealed buildings marked with the green triangle. They are not traps for you. They are protection for what's behind them. If you breach those seals, the things on the other side will not care that you are wearing Vothrak colors. They will eat you the same way they eat everything else. Take care of the dogs we left. They didn't deserve the trip. Good luck, Vothrak. You'll need it more than we do." The hologram flickered out. Teshin, watching from his bridge, did not speak for 9 full seconds. His tactical officers traded glances. "Warlord." Pull our scouts back to orbit. No one touches a sealed building. No one drills. No one digs. He turned. And get me Scythen on the comms. I want to know everything she saw on Earth. He had been a soldier for 60 years. The hairs along his crest, which only rose in true threat, were standing as they had not stood in a long, long career. Admiral Tomás Vega's flagship, the Adamant, arrived at the agreed-upon meeting coordinates a full hour before Warlord Teshin's command vessel. It came alone. 642 meters of dark hull, no escort screen, no fighter wing deployed, running silent enough that the Vothrek picket ships nearly missed its arrival. Teshin read the report and felt his crest rise again. One ship, Warlord. He flies into the heart of a war fleet with one ship. It would appear so. Teshin considered ordering an Alpha strike right then. He could erase the human flagship and end this particular thread in 12 seconds. He could turn the empty boast back at them. He could send Krelvar an apology by morning. Instead, he sat in his command chair and watched the human vessel hold position in clean, patient orbit around the dead star they had agreed upon as neutral ground. He requested communication. The line opened at once. The human admiral was older than Teshin had expected, dark hair gone white at the temples, a face seamed with long campaigns. He wore no medals on his uniform, only a small gray pin of a service organization Vothrek intelligence had been unable to identify. He raised a hand in greeting. Warlord Teshin, thank you for coming. I am Admiral Vega, Sol Republic Fleet Forward Command. Admiral, you came alone. My government instructed me to keep this matter brief. We have been ordered to deliver a single warning and depart. Are you prepared to hear it? Teshin's mandibles clicked. Speak. There is a region of space 3 jumps coreward of your current position. We have, until now, kept that region quarantined. You have a survey expedition heading into it. We are asking you, formally, to recall that expedition. You are asking the Dominion to obey human navigation orders. I am asking you not to send your people into a place that will kill them. And if we proceed, then your survey ships will not return. We will not retrieve their wreckage. We will not investigate the matter. We will not provide aid. And when the thing in that region tastes Vothrek biology and decides it likes the flavor, you will have a problem you cannot solve. Teshin rose from his chair. Admiral, you speak as though there is something out there that humanity has held back from us. The Dominion has charted 900 sectors. We know what is in this galaxy. Then forgive my correction. Vega's voice did not rise. You know what is in 900 sectors. You do not know what came into this galaxy from outside it 80 of your years ago. We do because we found it. We have been at war with it ever since. There was a long silence on the bridge of the Iron Throne. Prove it, Teshin said. Vega tilted his head. Are you certain you want that? Prove it, Admiral, or be considered to have lied to a sitting warlord of the Dominion. Very well. Vega gestured off-screen. The Adamant, which had been holding station in clear view of the Vothrek fleet, did not move. It ceased to be on Teshin's sensors, not a jump signature, not a stealth shimmer, not a phase blur. The ship was there, and then the ship was not there, and the only sign anything had happened was that the dust around its former position had not been disturbed. Where Teshin's sensor officer began, Warlord, I have lost the contact. All bands, optical, gravimetric, thermal. Find it. I cannot find it, Warlord. It is not there. Vega's image on the comm screen remained unmoved. I am not on your sensors, Vega said calmly, because what we fight has sensors better than yours. We learned not to be seen. We also learned other things. I am offering you the courtesy of knowing why. Recall your survey expedition, Warlord, or do not. The choice is yours, but make it knowing this. When the thing past those jumps comes for your worlds, my fleet will be the only thing between you and it. And right now, I am tired. My crews are tired. and we have lost too many people already to babysit an empire that thinks war on humanity will solve its problems. The screen cut. Outside the viewport, the dust began to swirl as a 600-meter starship eased back into existence. The Vothrak survey expedition did not return. Warlord Teshin, against every fiber of his pride, sent a fast reconnaissance squadron to find out why. The squadron found the answer 6 days later, drifting in cold space between two dead stars. The first ship they encountered was the survey flagship. It had been opened from the inside, hull plating flayed outward like the petals of a flower. There were no bodies. The interior surfaces had been scoured clean, then recoated in a substance that the squadron's chemists could not identify and refused to bring aboard. The second ship was the same, so was the third, so were all 12. Beyond them, the reconnaissance squadron's sensors picked up something larger, much larger. They approached with their stealth fields at full output. It was a battlefield. A graveyard of ships, hundreds of them, drifting in a broken orbit around an invisible barycenter. They were not Vothrak. They were not human. They were not anything in the Dominion's archives. The hulls were dark, almost matte, ribbed with what looked at first like decorative banding, but on closer inspection appeared to be something between bone and armor plating. They had no recognizable engines, no recognizable weapons, no recognizable bridge structures. They were shapes that the eye refused to settle on, like the geometry was wrong in some way the mind could not name. And they were dead, every one of them. Some had been cut clean in half. Some had been opened the way the Vothrak survey ships had been opened, only in reverse, as though humans had learned the trick of forcing them inside out and had paid them back in kind. Some bore burned scars from energy weapons that left signatures the recon squadron had never measured before. In among the wreckage, the squadron found what they had come for, human warships. Dozens of them scattered through the graveyard like fallen guards. Some were intact, many were not. The intact ones had been stripped, salvaged with quiet efficiency, hulls patched and refloated. The destroyed ones bore names: the Carthage, the Old Stockholm, the Tatiana Vasquez, the Bright Field. Names a Vothrak analyst would later trace through the Dominion's intelligence archives and find recorded as decommissioned, scrapped, lost in accidents, sold for parts. The official human registries had been lying for 60 years. Hidden in a small, intact courier vessel, they found a log. They downloaded it carefully and brought it back to the Iron Throne. Teshin watched the log alone in his quarters, with the door sealed. It showed a human battle, not against the Vothrak, not against any species he had ever seen. The enemies came in shapes that swam through the dark like deep-sea things, with mouths that opened where mouths should not be and limbs that uncoiled in numbers that did not fit the volume of their bodies. They moved fast. They consumed faster. He watched a human destroyer get caught at close range and saw it not destroyed but eaten, the hull peeled, the crew taken, the wreckage absorbed and added to the attacker's mass. He watched humans fight them. Not heroically, not gloriously, but with the grinding, exhausted competence of soldiers who had been doing this work for decades. They moved in disciplined wedges. They used weapons whose effects he did not understand. They lost ships and they lost crews and they kept fighting. And after 18 hours of recorded combat, the enemy formation broke and ran, and the humans did not pursue, because they did not have the fuel, because they had been on station for 4 months. The log ended with a memorial broadcast, a young officer reading names. 1,134 humans dead in that single engagement. The officer did not weep. She read the names with the steadiness of someone who had read many such lists. Teshin sat in the dark for a long time. When he emerged, he summoned his staff and gave 3 orders in a voice that surprised even him with its flatness. First, every Vothrak ship within 6 jumps of the quarantined region was to fall back to defensive positions. Second, every diplomatic channel to Earth was to be opened with every priority signal the Dominion possessed. Third, the High Sovereign was to be informed by personal courier that the Dominion had picked the wrong enemy at the wrong time, and that the species we had declared war on were, by any honest measurement, the only thing standing between us and a death we had not believed in. The courier left within the hour. The breach came 2 weeks later, and it did not come where the Vothrak expected it. The thing in the quarantined region had not been the only thing. There were others, and they had been watching. They came through into Vothrak space at a point 3 jumps from the homeworld, a long arm of dark vessels, 1,000 strong, spreading like a stain across the navigation charts. They did not announce themselves. They did not parley. They went straight for the nearest inhabited system. Veranik Prime, capital of the second sector, fell in 11 hours. The Vothrak fleet that defended it was good. It was disciplined, well-trained, equipped with the heaviest weapons the Dominion produced. It fought as it had been trained to fight, in textbook formations, executing every defensive maneuver in the manual. It died in 11 hours. So did Veranik Prime. 8 billion subjects of the Dominion went silent in the time it would take a human child to walk to school and back. The surface of the planet when the next survey passed was not blackened. It was gone. The crust had been stripped away to the mantle. What had been a homeworld was now a steaming, exposed sphere of molten rock. High Sovereign Krelvar stood in his amphitheater with the news. The torches behind him guttered. The 80 lords rose, this time not in pride but in something close to terror. Earth, Krelvar said, open the line to Earth. President Hart answered the call within 90 seconds. She was not in her office. She was in a war room. Behind her, displays Teshin had not been allowed to see were rolling with tactical readouts, fleet dispositions, casualty estimates. She looked thinner than she had at their last meeting. There were dark hollows under her eyes. Sovereign Krelvar, she said evenly, I was expecting your call. You knew this would happen. We knew something like this would happen. We could not predict where. 8 billion. I know, Sovereign. We have lost worlds too. We have lost more than you yet realize. I am not going to pretend to share grief I do not have time for, but I do not take pleasure in your dead. Krelvar's mandibles parted, closed, parted again. What do you want from us? Nothing you would not give freely now. Rescind the declaration of war. Place your fleet under joint command with mine. Cede the quarantined regions to our control. Open your shipyards to our specifications. And do it within 48 hours because we have less time than you think. You ask the Dominion to surrender. I am asking the Dominion to live. Your option to surrender to us expired the day you declared war. The option I am offering you now is alliance. Take it or do not. If you do not, my fleet will defend Sol and our colonies, and your empire will be eaten before the spring. The 80 lords erupted. Voices rose. Krelvar raised a single 6-fingered hand and they fell quiet. Why, he said to her, would you offer alliance to the empire that declared war on you? Hart was silent for a moment. Then she said, with something that might in another life have been kindness. Because I have 900,000 soldiers in deep space who have been fighting for 60 years and are very tired. Because the things that ate your world will eat the next 10, and we cannot stop them alone. Because 3,000 worlds are watching to see whether the human species are saviors or vultures, and I would prefer to be remembered as the first. And because, Sovereign, you have the largest fleet in this galaxy after mine, and right now, I will take help from anyone who can hold a weapon. She paused. 48 hours, Sovereign, decide. The line cut. In the amphitheater, the 80 lords looked to their sovereign. Krelvar lowered his hand and regarded the assembled court. They had spent 1,000 generations building the Dominion. They had broken empires. They had burned the Aelan Confederacy. They had walked into rooms and ended dynasties with a word. He thought of the recording from Halcyon 9, the tired voice, the note about the dogs, the note about the green triangles, the warning that had not been a threat, only a tired courtesy from a species that had bigger problems. Draft the rescission, he said. Place the fleet under joint command. Inform the human admiralty. A lord stepped forward. Sovereign, the lords will never. This is survival, Krelvar said. Do it. Part 7. The combined fleet gathered above the broken world of Veronic Prime. It was a thing the recorded history of the galaxy had never seen. Vothrak dreadnoughts in their iron blacks, human warships in matte grays, sliding into formation with the easy choreography of vessels that had practiced these maneuvers many times. Behind them, slower but no less determined, the warships of 9 other species who had received quiet messages from Saul over the past 2 weeks and had answered. The Trelak, the Ibn Sodality, the Long Houses, even the proud Mareth, whose ambassadors had once spat at human treaties. Admiral Vega stood on the bridge of the Adamant and looked out at the assembled fleet through eyes that had not closed for real sleep in 11 days. Teshin's voice came through the joint command line. Admiral, the Sovereign has dispatched the last of the reserve, 1,200 ships, including the Throne Guard. Acknowledged, Warlord, they'll be needed. How many of them, Teshin said carefully, do you expect to survive? Vega did not look away from the viewport. If we do this correctly, 60%. If we are lucky, 70%. If we are not, we will not be here to count. Teshin was silent. You have done this before, he said. We have done this 23 times, Warlord. We have lost every battle but the last one. We are still here. Be ready. Long-range sensors began to chime. The arm of dark vessels was coming. Not 1,000 this time. 3,000. The full strength of whatever it was that had crossed into the galaxy from the deep between galaxies, summoned by the taste of a Vothrak homeworld and curious for more. Vega keyed the all-fleet line. This is Vega, Saul forward command. To all vessels under joint command, hold formation. Hold your fire until they are inside the inner ring. Trust the data. Trust each other. We have been training for them. Now we kill them. The Dark Fleet emerged at the system's edge. What followed was not a battle in any sense the Vothrak archives would have recognized. Human warships unfolded weapon systems that bore no resemblance to known physics. Vothrak dreadnoughts, their main batteries calibrated against new targeting models Saul had supplied in the past 2 weeks, hit harder and more accurately than they ever had. The Mareth flew screens of small, fast ships that wove through the dark like fish through a reef. The Longhouses sent their grim, slow siege vessels into the heart of the enemy formation and held the line there, taking horrific losses, refusing to break. The Dark Fleet fought as it had always fought, as a single, ravenous, hungering thing. It tore through the first defensive ring. It opened ships the way it had opened the Vothrak survey vessels. Whole human destroyers and Vothrak cruisers vanished into its mass, taken apart cell by cell. But the fleet held, and then it advanced. In the middle of the engagement, Vega did the thing he had been preparing for since the Vothrak first declared war. He had positioned his deep reserve, not in front of the joint fleet, but behind the enemy. While the dark vessels were committed forward, his hidden ships emerged from behind them, in the same impossible way the Adamant had vanished from Teshin's sensors a month earlier, and unfolded into firing position at point-blank range. The Dark Fleet's rear formation came apart in 3 minutes. The rest of the engagement lasted 18 hours. When it ended, the broken hulks of the enemy fleet drifted in the dark beyond Veronic Prime. The joint fleet had lost 400 ships. It had not broken. The hungering thing in the dark that had eaten the Aelan Confederacy and would have eaten the Dominion had been turned, for now, back into the dark. In the silence that followed, Teshin opened a private channel to Vega. Admiral, Warlord, you used our declaration of war. There was a long pause. We did, Warlord. You knew we would declare. We knew the Dominion's pride could be relied upon, yes. You needed us in position to be struck, so that we would understand what was coming, so that we would commit our fleet beside yours when the time came. Yes, Warlord. A silence, then Teshin quietly. You let Veronic Prime die. We could not save it, Vega said. We did not have the ships. We are sorry. Are you? Warlord, I have buried 100,000 of my own in the last year. I have written letters to families until my hand stopped working. I am not in the business of pleasure at the death of any world. The line was quiet for a long time. Then Teshin said, "When the Dominion writes the history of this war, Admiral, I will see to it that your name is in it, and that we declared war on humanity, and that humanity hardly cared because they were already fighting for us, and we were too proud to see it." Vega closed his eyes a moment. Out beyond the viewport, the wreckage drifted in slow constellations. "Thank you, Warlord." "Get some sleep, Admiral." After the next one. The line closed. In the dark beyond the galaxy, something else stirred, and the Joint Fleet, the first true fleet of the new alliance, turned and began the long flight to meet it.